More than 200,000 people have rallied for democracy in Hong Kong as the government celebrated its 14th anniversary for returning to China. Special report tonight. Good evening.
Also in the news, a 210-kilometre bike ride to raise funds for homeless people in Perth, and Birmingham City Football Club owner charged with money laundering.
More than 200,000 people took to the streets in Hong Kong yesterday to show their concerns for free speech and to protest against social problems as the government's popularity hits a new low. But on the other hand, people were also celebrating the 14th year anniversary of Hong Kong returning to China. Our Hong Kong correspondent William Mann was there to report the bittersweet mixed day of protests and celebrations.
The day kicks off with Hong Kong Chief Executive Donald Tsang and another government official attending the flag-raising ceremony on Wan Chai's Bellini Square to mark the 14th year Hong Kong returned to China. Later at the anniversary luncheon, Donald Tsang stated that despite his role as CE will complete next year, he promised to the public and he and his team will work hard to bring them a better future. As the afternoon approached, the pro-democracy rally commenced at mid-afternoon. Demonstrators urged the government to withdraw its controversial proposal to scrap by-election for popularly elected legislative councillors and demand the Chief Executive Donald Tsang and Constitutional Affairs Secretary Stephen Lam to step down. Now the demonstrators have voiced their concern about high property prices and growing dissatisfaction with government's policy. After the demonstrations, things turned ugly as teenagers blocked the streets and refused to leave, while others are trying to push their way into Government House where Chief Executive stays. The organizer claimed a turnout of 218,000 people attended. However, police say only 51,000 people set off from Victoria Park, which does not include protesters who joined the march midway. William Mann, DHK News in Hong Kong.
Here are some other stories making news in Hong Kong. Legislators have been debating whether a mechanism to allow referendums should be introduced into Hong Kong's basic law. League of Social Democrats legislator said referendums would allow people to express their views in a peaceful way. But the Secretary for Constitutional Affairs, Stephen Lam, said the government doesn't have the power to introduce a referendum mechanism. The developer of a Mei Fu residential site has lost another legal battle against protesters seeking to block the development. The Court of Appeal has refused to hear a challenge to a lower court ruling which rejected Billion Star Development's application for an injunction against the protesters. And 4 students have received straight A grades in their 6 A-level exams this year, the highest number in 9 years. The youngest student taking the exams, a 15-year-old, also fared well.
A Hong Kong couple has been arrested in Perth for concealing teddy bears to smuggle wildlife out of Australia. 62 lizards were seized during a police raid of the couple's house in St James. The police have confiscated the teddy bears, postage and packaging materials as evidence. Investigators believe the bobtail lizards are worth up to 7,500 Australian dollars on the black markets in Asia. The couple could face up to 10 years in jail.
Approximately 20 people have protested outside Federal MP Melissa Parke's office, accusing the Labor government of pushing forward racist policies and attempting to cover up the underage imprisonment in Australia. Human rights activists are pushing for the minors to be released.
Yesterday afternoon in Fremantle, activists from the Refugee Rights Action Network staged a protest outside Federal Member for Fremantle, Melissa Parke's office. They demanded the immediate release of underage people smuggler Huther and 100 other minors from adult prisons. They also urged Melissa to stand up and speak out against the Australian government's abuse of asylum seeker human rights. Ms. Victoria Martin from the Refugee Rights Action Network alleges it's massive collusion between the AFP and the federal government.
Our investigations have shown that there are upwards of 100 children in adult prisons, foreign nationals, mostly young, poor, nearly illiterate Indonesian boys. Our government has failed to notify their consulates. Our government and the Australian Federal Police are using totally discredited wrist X-ray techniques for determining age.
Shibs, DHK News.
Well, Fremantle MP Melissa Parke has responded to our email inquiry and said she welcomed community action on important issues and views about the asylum seekers issue. Melissa also says, "My views has always been that asylum seekers should only be detained for the shortest period possible in order to conduct identity, health and security checks. There is a parliamentary inquiry into mandatory detention about to start, and I welcome this as I think that it is important that as a country we start thinking seriously about alternatives to detentions." The shared task of all those interested in better refugee policy is to combat the misunderstanding about the issues that are still widespread in the Australian community and to utterly reject the simplistic, xenophobic, stop-the-boats rubbish peddled by the Liberal Party for its own political purposes. Cory Wilkinson has decided to raise funds for the homeless people by riding a bicycle all the way from Busselton to Perth in order to draw public attention to the problems of homelessness in Australia.
He became the face of WA's homeless when he chained himself to a pillar outside Governor Stirling Tower last month, demanding a meeting with the Minister for Housing Troy Buswell while running against his seat in the upcoming state election. The trip will last for a few days as he cycles 210 kilometres along the countryside with his brother.
Probably 2 or 3 days. My brother's going to help me. So.
Cory has claimed that he was also attacked at Armadale train station by Aboriginal men with baseball bats. They injured his face and robbed him the night before this interview. Moyukh Muzahid, DHK News.
The owner of English football club Birmingham City, Leung, has appeared in Eastern Court charged with money laundering involving just over 720 million Hong Kong dollars. He was arrested on Thursday by officers from the Narcotics Bureau's Financial Investigations Unit.
He was granted cash bail of 4 million Hong Kong dollars and a cash surety of 34 million Hong Kong dollars from the managing director of Singapore newspaper, Victor Ma, and executive chairman and chief executive of Birmingham International Holdings, Victor Hui. The court heard that Mr. Leung operated 5 bank accounts to make transactions suspected to be involved in money laundering. 2 of the accounts were in the name of Mr. Leung's father. The prosecutor asked for the case to be adjourned and Mr. Leung to remain in custody, fearing that he would not answer bail, though Mr. Leung asked to surrender all his travel documents. But the defendant's lawyer, Daniel Maresh, said the prosecution had failed to provide evidence the money in the bank account was from related charges. Mr. Maresh further said that Leung has no reason to leave Hong Kong since his family lives there. Isabel Huther, DHK News.
Time for sports with Richie.
And Australia's under-17s are out of the World Cup.
That's right, Anna. The Australian team was booted out of the FIFA Under-17 World Cup after losing 4-0 to Uzbekistan during round 16 in Mexico. One of the goals scored was an own goal by Australian captain Connor Chapman, who deflected the ball past goalkeeper Paul Izzo. Australia was reduced to 9 players after Dylan Tombice and T-Boy Camara was sent out of the field with red cards. Australian coach Jan Verslegen said that it was a tough journey to get to where they are, but it had been an opportunity for the team. As for tomorrow's AFL Premiership match, Collingwood will be going against Hawthorn in the Melbourne Cricket Grounds at 2:10 in the afternoon, Australian Eastern Standard Time. Channel 7 will be airing the delayed broadcast of this match. That's all for sports. Ivan, Anna.
Thank you, Richie, and that's how the world looks tonight.
Great to have your company. Good night.
Good night.